Hello, Wake Up New Zealand. Carol Saker speaking. Well, it's getting bloody insane, isn't it? Now, we have the gender self-identification process going through in June. So we didn't have any voting, nothing on it. They just go ahead and do as they damn well like, don't they? Well, the confusion for our kids around this and what's going on, the change of sex on birth certificates, not only the change of sex, the change of gender, the change of names, can be amended on a birth certificate multiple times in one person's lifetime. And there's no gap between. But it's too insane. We all know there's one sperm and one egg, one male, one female. It's not hard to figure out, is it, people? So, all the lies that are being told, the big porkies, and they get away with it. So, anyhow, the Department of Internal Affairs held a series of consultations over 6 weeks. That was back last year from January to July on the new self-identification process, asking to hear from transgenderism, non-binary, and particularly from Maori and Pacifica. Now, somehow, I don't know how those people with Maori blood think about this, but they've come up with Maori names for all these different types of gender. I would be interested to hear what those with Maori blood actually think about that. So in June 2023, they're going to introduce this self-identification process. And New Zealanders will be able to identify as another gender, non-binary, etc., another name, another sex. So, yeah, render as many times as you like. And it said in December 2021, it's been documented that Parliament unanimously passed a law allowing Kiwis to more easily change their sex gender recorded on the birth certificate through a basic statutory declaration. So allowing the use of Maori gender terms, citing the risk of racial profiling. I'm sure they didn't ask the whole of the Maori-blooded population what they thought about it. How many did they ask? It's not clear to see. So which sex and gender terms applicants will and won't be able to use? So the Cabinet paper by Jan Tinetti said, that's Minister of Education, applicants would be able to change their sex and gender markers to another gender or non-binary gender in addition to male and female. She said the gender terminology tends to evolve quickly, with certain terms becoming short-lived. So it keeps on changing and changing and changing so many times. That's why we have so many genders that are coming up. They're getting very creative. Not. While some public submitters had supported having a wide range of markers to choose from, Tinetti said gender terminology tends to evolve quickly, with certain terms becoming more or less favourable in relatively short time spans. So the new gender process is entrenched, so it will have a long relevance. So it's going to go on for a long time. It's not going to end at all. By all accounts, it's just going to go on and on and on. So gender is outside of binary with a suitable, if not specific, sex and gender marker. So we're talking about specific sex, male, female, with different gender markers. So it might be, I don't know, I can't remember all the sexes and the genders and what they keep on coming up with is so insane, and I just don't want to remember them. So the government consider allowing the use of Maori terminology, such as takatapui, English term for LGBTQ1+. I'm sure that wasn't, they never had a written Maori language, did they? Not before 1840 or so. So where did this come from? Well, Jan Tinetti seems very sure of herself. She says, however, an open register could lead to racial profiling and discrimination. However, Tinetti referred to the Crown Treaty Waitangi obligation. So the Crown Treaty Waitangi obligation is to use this name that Tinetti has said for LGBTQ1 plus Maori-blooded people are to be called, their terminology is takatapui. I want to know what people think of this. So children up to 16 can change their gender, however they need an application on behalf of their guardian, as well as a letter of support from a third party. Anyone who's known them over 12 months, the first party, I believe, must be a medical, not a professional, so it could be a counsellor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. There's a wide range of professionals that can be used, and a family member or a friend who's known them for over 12 months. It's very easy for them to do this. So, it could be a social worker, a doctor. It's huge, the list of professionals. So, chiropractors and dentists come under that too. So, Tinetti said the process would give young applicants a reasonable level of choice and in which they approached for support. Law critics have expressed the potential misuse of identification for identification fraud. So there is a concern around identification fraud and counterfeit documents. So that can be, there is a huge risk for that. It was reported when people born overseas have no official documentation from their country of origin or from New Zealand with their correct name and gender, it places significant barriers when they attempt to access services, including health services. So these transgender people are coming in from overseas. What happens there? They are referred to the rainbow community. This is what it says here. So there's no, we all know there's only two sexes, sperm, egg. That's it, full stop. So the male and female reproductive organs are part of the only body system that requires a separate body of opposite sex to fulfill its ultimate function. What we can't do, however, is deny what appears to be reality regarding human sexuality. Of course, there's only two sexes, and that's male and female. So the increased promoting of genders is provoking a huge backlash across the world. The authoritarian cultural Marxism, the class system. It's communism and it's totalitarianism. And I've even noticed these trans activists at co-governance, promoting co-governance at meetings, in gatherings, in public places. So that's that as well. The other thing that I actually read today when I was doing my research was the huge money that's being made out of this by corporations and that by pushing transgenderism across the world. So I will do a document and put that out on my website about that. I'll make video about it, but people wake up. You know, this has to stop somewhere because this is getting really, really violent. You have transgender activists that have become aggressive, that are, we have groups in New Zealand that are supported by councils like Wellington District Council, where children are being targeted in schools. And that's supported by local government and central government. I have read documentation through the Minister of Education where they talk about showing pornography and for young people to discuss pornography in classes and what that means to them, feelings, etc., etc. You know, kids, young kids and all. I mean, they should be learning the ABCs, not the LGBTs. So, you know, the dumbing down of education. It's scary shit because we don't know where all this is going to end. We don't know what impact it's going to have on young people's lives as yet. This was actually introduced into schools about 2019, but in 2011, there was already a group and other groups supporting queering of schools in New Zealand, and queering's just a mask for all this transgender activism. So yeah, queering of schools, 2010, 2011, and in Te Papa there's a school plaque in the archives, and it says queering of schools in New Zealand, 2011. The queer agendas. I know it sounds like a comic book, but that's what they call themselves, the Queer Avengers. And they were supported by the Workers' Party of New Zealand, a Marxist, Socialist, far-left party. Byron Clark was one of the key people who were in that party and actually represented that group, I should say, party, Workers' Party New Zealand, and as he stood for Mayor of Christchurch for the Workers' Party of New Zealand in 2007. Now, he's the one who has done this whole thing that has targeted anyone who speaks up against the narrative of this government. He gives seminars in Massey University. He is actually doing reporting for the propaganda machine, mainstream media. Yeah, so what has it come to? I mean, you're talking about a person who is very much on Marama Davidson same page. Both of them supporting, promoting a designated terrorist organization, the Palestinian Liberation Front, who actually send children into places where there's war, where there's they use children as suicide bombers, and that is documented on the UN. They actually spoke about how the Palestinian Liberation Front used children as suicide bombers. So, and this, you know, Byron Clark Workers' Party was part of that, where they supported the queer agendas and the queering of schools in New Zealand in 2011, promoted the selling of T-shirts and other goods, market stalls for the Palestinian Liberation Front, and actually on their Fight Back magazine actually documented that they had sent funds over to the Palestinian Liberation Front. For some reason, New Zealand does not have the Palestinian Liberation Front on their designated terrorist list, but the other 5 countries do. So Miriam Davidson was put in jail over in Israel for her supporting of the Palestinian Liberation Front. So when she cries out, "Oh, I got hurt by a motorbike," that is bullshit. That is bullshit. She is no victim. She's been in places where neither you or I would go. That's very dangerous. So don't believe any of that. If you looked at her history, yeah, she was there promoting the Palestinian Liberation Front over in Palestinian waters. Wake up, New Zealand. Find out these people who are actually telling these insane lies. What is it about these people? What have they done before? Why have they created what they've created? It's that whole cultural Marxism thing. And it's the Green Party that is really, really pushing this transgender in school stuff. Labour, of course, is too. National's a weak piece of sponge that does very little, and I'm not happy about that, because I saw a minister of the National Party on last Saturday night after going. Was it Saturday or Sunday? Anyhow, it was just after going to Albert Park, where I got assaulted 4 or 5 times actually, and had my phone stolen and the glass in the front broken. And I told this National Party member about it, Simon O'Connor, and what I got back was nothing. Not, "Oh, that's terrible that happened," or "Those people in Albert Park, that was an awful thing to happen. That is criminal." And it was criminal. And while I was there, you could hear the noise getting louder and louder, pots being beaten and whistles and loud noises. And as the noises got louder, the transgender activists actually became more frenzied. They were like a demonized cult. They really were. You know, and these politicians that support this, God save New Zealand. Because, we can't do anything about them, but we can actually make sure that our children are not sexualized like this in schools. We need to get together in force. It's no good just a few. Brian Tamaki, yes, he did a good march. He actually promoted that, did that, arranged it, him and his people and Hannah. We all need to do that, and we all need to get together. All us nans, all the mums, all the uncles, the aunties, the dads, the granddads. There should be millions of us on the streets to protect our children from this insanity. We don't know what it's going to do to their lives later on, and all I can see is bad stuff, really bad stuff. And they're being told lies. And when a lie is told often enough, then it's believed to be true. Wake up, New Zealand.